Coming from Vancouver, Canada, but originally from Mexico, he's a senior software engineer and architect at Lululemon. He's been in the software game for over 10 years, and about 7 years ago, he jumped into the iOS world. These days, he's the brain behind Lululemon's mobile point of sale. Let's welcome Manuel Mosso.
Hey. Hello, everyone. What an amazing week. I'm enjoying my experience in Argentina. This is the first time I'm visiting the country, and everyone has been so nice to me, so that's why I put some extra love on the slides. Hopefully you enjoy it. Today I'm gonna tell you a story about our app, its evolution, pain points, and wins. So let's keep the momentum going. And before going into the main topic of this talk, I would like to take the opportunity to share with you why I became an iOS developer in first place. So I guess everything started here when I finished my computer science bachelor degree in Mexico. After going out from university, I started working as a backend engineer in some other companies in Mexico. But I guess after 4 years working on the field, internally I attended an iOS demo in one of the companies I was working at the time. It was a travel app, I still remember. So the iOS developer was explaining all the features that they include on the application. And I just got shocked about all the animations, all the transitions, the fonts, the colors. So somehow I had this vision, right? I saw my future clear. I wanted to build iOS applications in order to improve people's life. So you have to start somewhere, as everything in life. I started teaching myself iOS. And that's how I found a cool place in which I could refine my iOS skills. That place is the iOS Developer Academy in Italy. So I applied, I got a scholarship, I moved to another country. I started to learn English, which is fun because it's Italy, right? So I learned English, Italian, parlo poco. But yeah, that worked pretty well for me because it was like an iOS bootcamp, but longer. After 1 year in the academy, I just went back to Mexico, in which I joined Argentina-based company. So probably this is familiar to you, Globant. I was the only member based in Mexico, so I worked with Argentinians. So Buenos Aires just, I don't know, has been on my mind for so many years. Then I think that's the point in which, moving forward, life cross paths between me and Lululemon. So they presented me with an opportunity to work in a very rare iOS application, an application that you don't see so often on the market. So I couldn't resist my curiosity and started my Canadian adventure. And after 5 years, I'm still working with them. But what about Lululemon? Do you know Lululemon? Maybe it's not a fruit. If you haven't heard about the company, here are some highlights, right? So it's a Canadian apparel company based on Vancouver. We have around 700 official stores. And the business model is direct to consumer, which basically the company designs the products, manufacture the products, and distribute them through the main channels. Of course, the main distribution channel is our stores. But we also have e-commerce platforms like the website or mobile applications. And this is exactly where we connect products, Lululemon products, with the iOS apps. At the company, we support 2 big applications. The first one is called Guest App. The second one is called BBR. They share the same code base. We have something called Lululemon kernel, in which we encapsulate so many things that they share in common, like maybe network layer, DB access, things like that, right? Pretty common stuff. We distribute Guest App through the Apple Store. So basically, final users can just install it on their devices. And we distribute BBR through Mobile Iron because it's an enterprise application. Some highlights about Guest App. Basically, this is the one that the final user can use to buy products. So basically, you add a product to your bag. You continue with the checkout. Then you add the shipping address, payment method, and then at some point, the products will be delivered to your home. It also has some custom features like closet, wish lists, and so on. Now, some numbers. This application has around 1.6 million users. It's available in 2 markets. supports 2 currencies, and is available in French and in English. Now, what about the other one, BBR, the enterprise application? This is the application I work for. I will define BBR like a toolbox that empowers educators to remove the barriers between Lululemon products and the customers. They are, or BBR users, educators, people like them, working on the stuff. If you pay attention to this photo, you can notice something in particular, right? Something in common. They are wearing this belt bag in the chest, and this is where they like to put the BBR device, so it's accessible whenever they need it during the shift. Talking a little bit the UX approach, the designers have been put a lot of attention on these factors because BBR is designed keeping in mind that sometimes the store is so busy, it's loud. Educators sometimes they have just one hand available because in the other one they are holding products. They are multitasking all the time, so they need a product to rely on in order to perform better, right? Keep to mention that this application is maintained by around 70 people distributed across 5 teams. Not all of them developers, of course, it's a mix of all the profiles. Some numbers. We have around 16,000 devices, BBR devices, operating all over the world, 21 countries, 3 regions. We support 11 currencies, and we support 6 languages. Overall, I can define as a BBR as a multi-platform feature. It has so many features for educators. It will be really hard for me to talk about each single one. So I'm going to focus just in one feature, which is actually my major area of expertise within the company, and that feature is mPOS. This is the use case in which customers are in the store with an item on hand, and they are ready to pay. So basically, the educator can just take the BBR device and start a sale transaction, a checkout process, right? Scan the item gets added to the bag, then proceed with the checkout, ask for the payment method, and submit the order. Pretty simple. The main idea behind mPOS was because we wanted to reduce the waiting times for customers on the register, especially during peak season. So this was the main motivation. But let me go a little bit behind, a little back in history. At some point, talented group of people at Lululemon noticed that we had technology that we were not using at its full potential. And that technology is a set of APIs that live on the register. The register is the one that you see in the photo. Basically, the register contains kind of like a framework, and the register itself is like a server. So mPOS is kind of extension of the POS itself. So we engage with the infra team. So we ask them to enable a port so we can create a POC. Worked pretty well, and mPOS was born. So then, as you can see, high-level architecture, and for security reasons, the application was designed, the architecture was designed to operate only local traffic. The BBR device talks directly to the register, and at the end of the day, if you are creating an mPOS transaction, everything goes through the register, and at the end of the day, the register updates the logs. So finance department can reconcile all those transactions at the end of the shift. But this worked acceptable during the first weeks, months, but then the first problems are starting to show up. So the first one is this: not enough register to support massive mPOS traffic. Just imagine, there are some stores in which they have around 60 BBR devices. So they were trying to enable mPOS for all of them. So basically, the register collapsed. This is real. So there was a use case, or we saw a use case in which educators used to label devices, BBR devices like this, with tape on the back. You can use only this mPOS device because you cannot use the other ones because the network will collapse. Not efficient, well, not a smart solution, but efficient. But we have to do something for them. So we come up with something called lead register. So this is exactly the moment in which we engage two big teams within the company, which is POS team, which own the registers, and the other one, the infra team. So basically, we created some dedicated mPOS register in virtual machines. And now, with the figure of the lead register, like an orchestra director, right? Just redirecting all the traffic through the dedicated mPOS registers. Or in other, maybe boring terms, a load balancer. We created another happy problem just because of this. So at the beginning of the shift, if you're an educator, you also need to set up the device. You need to select and go to the menu, to the setting screens. So you have to set the workstation ID, the device will talk to the register during the shift. But since we expanded the pool of available registers, now it was really hard for them to keep track of all the IDs available. What if one of the registers went down? So as an educator, what do I do? Why do I need to choose another one, but which one should I pick? And I don't worry about mPOS because at the end of the day, my job is to assist guests. And then we have to do something for them. We come up with the idea of automatic workstation assignment, which is basically a microservice that manages all the pool of the available registers at the time. So the application launch, it checks the register status, and then just gets one automatically assigned, and educators can just move on. So we remove that manual dependency. I guess these two changes set up the foundation for us to scale, and we were able to ship mPOS, or I mean enable the feature in more regions. As today, there are 12,000 devices across the world transacting via mPOS. We also come up with a new version, mPOS 2.0, a new design, more features. I guess one of the interesting features we added in this iteration is guest profile creation on the fly, like guest membership. We also added support for gift card redemption, activation, reload. We included gift receipts, e-receipts. We accepted more payment methods, discounts, transaction-level discounts, item-level discounts. It was great. Overall satisfaction was about 5, which is acceptable in a scale of 1 to 7. But you know something? There was still a key issue, a pain point in mPOS that was blocking from reach its full potential. If we take a look back at the diagram, the original design, so you notice something, all the traffic is local. That means that if you are an educator assisting a guest in the store and then you start a transaction, sometimes the store network just went down, slow, or even if you walk away from the access point, the bag just get lost. Not a very nice user experience. So we come up with this idea of mPOS Cloud. So we come up with this idea of mPOS Cloud, which is basically a proxy. Suppose here, it's off. So, okay, sorry, technical issues. Okay, so we come up with this idea of mPOS in the cloud, which is basically a proxy. And now we have the BBR device, the mPOS device, talking directly to the registers. It was a kind of pretty smart solution because now the client doesn't care about hitting the APIs itself. Basically, the proxy is doing all the job for us. We were able to perform mPOS transactions in the store, out of the store, and even in trunk shops. Actually, this is real. I placed the first mPOS transaction from Argentina. I got a pair of gloves for winter. So if my team is watching this talk, so it worked, guys, good job. I still remember the feeling of working on this feature. I was implementing the proxy, and I had this feeling that, okay, everything is ready for testing. I'm gonna just work from home that day. And I think that happened to you as well when you are working on a feature and then it works at the first time. So you say, why it works? Something must be wrong. But anyway, it was an amazing experience. The first ever mPOS transaction out of the store was placed at my home, just for the records. Another use case, this one is interesting. We enabled the company to use mPOS in experiential stores. What is an experiential store? So basically, these kind of stores are used by the company for marketing campaigns, maybe for some ambassador talks, or even open yoga sessions for customers. It's the perfect opportunity for mPOS. Why? Because it's easier, faster, and cheaper to set up a mobile application to transact rather than dealing with heavy hardware. I guess it was just a win. And then something that we all remember, I believe, 2020, an interesting use case for our application. As we remember, we had to adapt, we had to change. We were in lockdown. We continually, slowly moving on. But then there were social distancing rules, right? So if we follow the social distancing rules, we were allowed to do non-essential things like shopping. So that's when the company started to notice something, increase on the e-com orders. But also, we started to notice an increase on returns and exchanges. And it's pretty normal. It's expected because you as a customer, and especially buying your first maybe Lululemon product or whatever brand you like, there is a huge chance that it's not going to fit you. So our customers were getting more than 3 sizes, so just to try it on, and then later on return the ones that they don't like it or they don't use. Product owners reaching out to us, asking us if we can do something to support this use case. So we started to rethink the flow, right? We put technology aside for a bit, and we ask ourselves, do we really need an app for this? Maybe we don't. But the answer was yes. So we started to compare sales flow against the returns flow. And if we think about actors, so what do we have here? So in the sales flow, we have educator assisting the guest. We have a guest with products on hand, and we have a payment method, right? So now take a look at the returns use case. It's the same. Educator, customer with items on hand, and a credit card to put the money back. So we come up with something called mPOS returns and exchanges, which basically the major changes here was in the UI. Now the educator can just take the e-receipt or the printed receipt of your purchase, scan it, and then the application itself will just populate all the available products for return. And then we can just proceed with the checkout. Pretty simple. So we performed a lot of returns during that peak season right in the store. And everything was thanks to the changes we made in the past. So we set the foundation. It was pretty cool. Well, how was this possible? Because we shipped this feature in record time. I guess we started developing around October. So we shipped in November. I guess 1 month developing and maybe rounds of testing. We have a lot of reusable components at Lululemon, in the code base. We have this concept of router, which is basically a custom class that monitors all the views available on the stack view. So if you pass a view controller ID through the route, it will just put it on top of everything. And also you can pass custom parameters like a specific screen behavior. For example, take a look at this scanner. It has the capability to work in 2 modes, barcode and QR code. So we do something like this. Route, please pop up the scanner, but I want to scan a barcode. Or the other one, I want to scan a QR code. So it's the same view controller. As long as you pass the correct ID to the router and the correct mode, the view controller will self-manage and will just populate its data because it has access to the data objects that are shared between all the flows. We can do the same with Guest App, for example. We can borrow screens from them, and they can do the same with us. So that's pretty much how we scale, and that's why, basically it's UI kit. It's not SwiftUI, it's UI kit. But this is the strategy for us to reuse components, especially big controllers. Now, talking a little bit about the future, I guess we're pretty excited in the team because we're preparing the third iteration of mPOS, which we believe is going to disrupt the payment strategy, at least for retailers in North America. There are challenges, of course, but when we look back to the past and we see exactly where we were and all the progress we have made, I think the future looks very promising. Now, I think this is my personal point of view. Just looking at the history of mPOS, I'm probably linking with myself, with my own history. I guess there are some similarities, and I guess I connect everything. And I would like to summarize this talk with this quote: "Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can." And it not only applies to software engineering, it applies for most aspects in our life. Thank you so much. Some technical issues.
Okay, so I have some question for you. The first one says, what was the hardest challenge you had to face at Lululemon?
Well, actually, this is something that has nothing to do with technology. I mean, at the end of the day, technology, you can learn it. You can just go and read tutorials and be better at coding, or learn an API. What I'm trying to say this is, I guess the most challenging part for me was just leave my home and go live abroad and try. I got shocked the first time I had to present a demo like this in the company. I just got shocked. So my strategy for that moment was just to create a presentation. That presentation was just for me, just to follow the story. And at the end of the day, I felt comfortable just doing these kind of things and became a little bit more natural. It's always scary, but I think that was the most challenging part. It has nothing to do with technical stuff. Maybe, I don't know, if I can summarize it, it could be culture change, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, the second one says, with the upcoming tap to pay from Apple, will Lululemon add this feature in the mPOS?
Yeah, I cannot disclose exactly what's going to happen in mPOS, but yes, so we have been exploring the possibility of using tap to pay in mPOS. We have some prototypes, so the future is exciting. So we have some working stuff up there, but yes, I cannot say too much.
It's a secret. The next one says, how do you input the client's credit card data?
Sorry, what's that again? Can you read the question?
Yeah, it says, how do you input the client's credit card data?
Oh, okay. So yeah, this is interesting because so we have a specific screen. So when you are in a point in which you have to add the credit card info, so we have this OCR that extracts the credit card info on our behalf. So once the info is populated on the UI and the educator checks or asks the client or compare the plastic with the info on the screen, so we encrypt the credit card. So basically, we never store the plain credit card info on the DB. So actually, we certify the app for some institutions that do these kind of things. But yeah, so basically, the faster way for us is OCR. And if OCR doesn't work, because there are some tricky cards, right? Like maybe because of the background or the plastic, the colors, even the light, because I also working on this improvement. So I realized that there are so many issues with credit cards. Actually, there are no specific pattern. So even there are some cards that are embossed, so you can feel the numbers, and there are other ones that is totally plain. So actually, I added a feature in which the scanner can switch between these two modes. So yes, we encourage educators to use the OCR input, but if that doesn't work, so they still have the chance to type it, and then we just encrypt the number. Yeah.
Okay, I think this is the last one. It says, are you working with anyone to bring this technology to other retailers?
Interesting. I guess, at least for mPOS, is specific for use case. At some point, I guess this is something that we already have in the company. We have our own e-commerce platform that we built and shipped this year. So mPOS is following that direction. So if you remember that dependency with the register, finally mPOS will consume our own e-commerce platform, and then we can just go from there. I guess the possibilities are open, but as far as I know, it's not my main area of expertise, because business, right? So I don't know anything about this at this point. So there could be some talks on the background. Who knows? Maybe could be a surprise.
This is the last one. It says, do the company has a plan to migrate to Swift UI?
Oh, yeah. So we are actually integrating some Swift UI code within the app. So we choose specifically easy screens, like purchase confirmation screen, in which you just need to display just the confirmation, right, of the transaction. Simple things like changing strings, maybe settings. But yes, we are adding our code base supports Swift UI. It's challenging, but I guess, yes, we are moving on that direction. I would say Swift UI is just 5% of the code base. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? No? Then thank you so much, Manuel.
Okay, thank you.